reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You're with GB News. It's 11 o'clock. There were extraordinary scenes in the House of Commons this afternoon. Parliamentary amendments tabled to strengthen the government's Rwanda bill were defeated. Our political editor, Christopher Hope, explains.
A difficult night then for the PM, Rishi Sunak, and his Rwanda plan, with 60 Tory MPs, 2 independents and 8 DUP MPs voting for amendments to try and strengthen his plan. They weren't impressed by the remarks from the Prime Minister to GB News on Monday, making clear he would overrule European judges which try and frustrate the will of the UK government in sending illegally arrived migrants who arrive here by boat back to Rwanda. There's been some casualties too. We've seen the resignations of both Lee Anderson and Brendan Clark-Smith, 2 deputy chairmen of the Tory party, and later tonight, the resignation of Jane Stevenson, a parliamentary private secretary to Kevin Badenoch. So, food for thought overnight for government whips and for Mr Sunak and his team as we go into a key day tomorrow when more amendments are voted on, but crucially, if the bill remains unamended, there'll be a 3rd reading tomorrow night, and that vote could be lost unless whips and the PM, maybe himself personally, can persuade some of those 60 or so Tory MPs not to vote the bill down on Wednesday night.
Full coverage of that vote tomorrow right here, GB News. Now, also today, in the post office scandal, a Fujitsu boss accused the post office of knowing about bugs and errors in the Horizon IT system. The Business and Trade Committee heard from key figures involved in the post office scandal, including a Fujitsu executive called Paul Patterson. He apologised and admitted his company had a moral obligation, as he put it, to contribute towards compensating victims. And the wrongly accused former postmaster and leader of the Sub-Postmasters Alliance, Alan Bates, blamed red tape for delays to compensation payments. The coldest January night in 14 years is hitting the UK tonight. Temperatures in Scotland reaching as low potentially as 15 degrees. Sorry, I should rephrase that, minus 15 degrees. More than 100 schools were closed as well in Scotland today as the Met Office issued yellow warnings for snow and ice, including northern England and parts of Wales. That's going to remain in place until midnight and overnight. The Met Office saying a cold plunge of Arctic air has moved south across the whole country over the last week, making it 5 or 6 degrees lower than usual for this time of year. The government's confirmed thousands of households in England and Wales are now eligible for cold weather payments. Now, the words climate change have been named as the 2023 Children's Word of the Year by Oxford University Press. Over 3,000 children aged 6 to 14 were asked for their Word of the Year, with the most common response being climate change, followed closely by war and coronation. Director of Oxford Children's Services, Helen Freeman, says it shows children's desire for meaningful change. Climate change, of course, 2 words, aren't they? This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car on digital radio and on your smart speaker. This is Britain's News Channel.
Well, hello and welcome to Headliners. We'll be reviewing the next day's newspapers with top comedians. I'm Stephen Allen, here with 2 cool customers, mainly because of the weather. It's Leo Kearse and Josh Howie. It is very cold, isn't it? It's so cold that before you 2 left the house, your jackets were red.
Yeah.
That is how bad...
My nipples are so hard!
But they always are when you do TV, because it is a thrill.
It is, the adrenaline coursing through my body.
Why the makeup people prepare them that way. So that's how it goes.
That's what I've got.
Leo, you're looking very smart today.
Yeah. I had another thing to go to before Headliners, so I dressed smarter than I normally do for Headliners.
Oh, didn't dress up for us.
Not that I disrespect Headliners in any way.
Chop liver over here.
You're looking... Josh, you're here.
Yeah, I didn't have a thing to... Oh, okay. Wow.
Right, let's take a look at your front pages. To the Times, Sunak hit by resignations and biggest rebellion yet. The Telegraph goes with 60 Tories turn on PM in Rwanda rebellion. Harder to say than I thought. The Guardian says PM faces revolt on Rwanda plans as senior Tories quit. The Mirror goes with post office scandal about time. The Express says PM's last-ditch plea to rebels come together on Rwanda plan. The Daily Star, Houston, we have a moron. And those are your front pages. Let's get some meat on the bones. What's the Times going with, Leo?
So the Times have got that story about the Rwanda bill. It's the eve of the key Rwanda bill. It's Rwanda Bill Eve. I don't know if it'll become as popular as Christmas Eve. But Sunak has been hit by resignations in his biggest rebellion yet. So there are 60 Tory MPs saying they're going to or potentially could rebel against this bill. Only 6 say they definitely will vote against it. Lee Anderson and Brendan Clark-Smith have resigned, I believe. And the key number is 32. If 32 Tories don't vote against this bill, it won't go through. But they've been trying to put through amendments to make legal challenges more difficult. So, you know, when asylum seekers, we say asylum seekers, really they're just guys who want to come here. When they arrive, they can just do endless taxpayer-funded challenges against being deported or against their asylum case being rejected. So, you know, there's no way of stopping them. The system's totally broken. And there's apparently a whole bunch of moderate Conservative MPs who don't want these amendments to go through. They want people to be able to make infinite legal challenges against their asylum being refused. I mean, who are these Conservative moderates? How can you be if you're why do you join the Labour Party? What are you doing in the Conservative Party? It's supposed to be a Conservative Party. They're sitting there thinking, oh no, we should just let everybody in. It's like, have you spoken to the voters and, you know, heard what they want? I mean, obviously Labour, I can understand them wanting infinite numbers of people to come over the channel because they think they're going to vote Labour when they get registered. So it's a way of, you know, inflating their electoral pool.
Well, that's all according to Leo.
Who's never wrong about it.
Exactly. The moderate parts of the Conservative Party, I imagine part of their concerns are the breaking of international law. And that is
international law.
Oh, boo-hoos.
We got our own laws.
So, well, we also are part of an international community.
We also have natural
I don't think it's
law.
a great look for us to be breaking international law.
I think it's a great look. It sends a signal to all these little apparatchiks in the international community who lord it over little nations.
Okay.
It sends a signal that, like, your stupid bogus rules that you use to control other nations, we're going to break them.
Well, this is the majority of the Conservative Party. We are talking potentially up to 60 voters voting against it. We don't know. There's still hundreds of Conservative MPs who disagree with you and think that this bill will be sufficient to get the Rwanda scheme off the ground.
Join the Green Party, hippies.
It's an interesting, because the article also has information about a survey of people's opinions about this whole Rwanda. And so even the people that they're trying to please by this, look, let's see how tough we are. Only 60% of Conservative voters think it won't make a difference anyway.
Yeah.
So you look how tough we are in delivering the thing that you don't even believe in.
Also, the way that it's phrased, the Labour saying that it's a waste of taxpayers' money and it's not going to work. So it's not that I mean, I'm not saying that is the reason why they don't want this bill to go, but that's what they're phrasing it as. It's not that they are saying, we want these people to come in. They're just saying, this won't work, it's going to cost us too much money.
If it won't work, why not let it happen?
Because it breaks international law.
What's the harm? Oh, international law. I'm sick of hearing about international law.
Well, they said waste of taxpayers' money. It was just in that sentence.
Yeah, waste of taxpayers' money. But we haven't tried it. And also, how much taxpayers' money is being wasted on... Apparently, each small boat that comes across the channel costs the taxpayer £30 million. So that's an insane amount of money. And I think, sending a few people...
We should stop buying them.
At least we use. A similar flavour for the Telegraph, Josh. What are they going with?
Yeah, well, they've also gone with, 60 Tories turn on PM in Rwanda. But the story that I want to talk about here is strictest head teacher in High Court for banning Muslim prayer. Now, this is the head teacher, Catherine Bubble Singh.
Yep.
Is that, okay, cool. I follow her on Twitter. I'm a big fan of hers. She's turned around this school and made it one of the top schools in the country by being very strict, by having these very enforced rules, and one of them being no prayer rituals. And the argument, according to this young Muslim student, is that Islam requires rituals in order to pray. It's not like you can be Christian and do it in your head, supposedly. That's what she's saying anyway. And it seems like a bunch of Muslim students, and I think half the students there are Muslim, were praying in part of the playground and whatnot. So it was banned, and the issues here, of course, freedom of religion, whatever. But the proof is in the pudding, and these students are coming from all over the borough to go to this very special school because the results they are getting. And it seems, and because of this, and I hadn't read about this stuff before, but the school has been getting violence and threats and brick thrown through windows and whatever from essentially Islamic fundamentalists protesting against it. And that's, of course, what a wonderful way to prove what a great religion you should be praying to if you're going to threaten the school and madness.
Yeah, you're taking this, Leo?
I think it's perfectly fair. I mean, Jewish and Christian prayer is encouraged in Islamic madrasas in Qatar. So, yeah, why not? Why not have a... I mean, how about if you want to pray, if you want to do all that stuff, how about you go to a different school? This is a school that doesn't allow prayer. It sort of reminds me of the sort of wider picture where you have, people coming from other countries to come and live in the West because they want all the good stuff that the West has got. And then when they get here, they're like, oh, no, but we want everything this way, and you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, and, women should be covered and all this. And it's like, what? Why did you come here? You can have all that, in other countries that have that culture. And I think, this school, Catherine Burble Singh, the headmistress, she delivers results, and surely that's what matters, no matter what, religion, whatever sky god you worship.
To the Mirror next, Leo. What are they going with?
So they have the boss of Japanese tech giant Fujitsu says there's a moral obligation.
Clip it up.
Just authentic. That's how it's
like, as I say, croissant. Fujitsu. But he says there's a moral obligation to pay post office scandal compensation, which is going to be paid in the form of he's going to stab himself in the stomach with a big sword. No, he's not.
That's authentic now. It's moving away from authentic back towards racist.
I think this is more like he'll cut off his little finger.
Yeah, because it is a bit of a. It does. I mean, it's got the ring of criminality about it.
I really want to do a Fujitsu now. I feel like I'm a dangerous comedian.
It feels good.
Go on, do an accent.
Fujitsu! Yeah, we've black-pilled Josh, or red-pilled. I lose track of what colour the pills are supposed to be. Maybe I'm a pill racist. Anyway, there's £1 billion that's got to be paid out in compensation, they estimate. And this guy, Mr. Reid, who took charge of the post office in September 2019, insists the organisation has now drastically changed since he got back in touch. But they were responsible for a lot of failures, not just the post office software failure, but also a big, large-scale NHS IT system which cost an insane amount of money and, as I understand it, didn't work.
Can I say two things about this? Another one is...
Not in the accent, though.
Fujitsu!
Fujitsu! I'll do it in a French accent. Fujitsu? Anyway, the point... One thing is that, yes, so this Fujitsu boss says that they have a moral obligation to pay the post office scandal compensation once caught.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where your moral obligation comes from being busted. And someone gave him the phrase, some PR said, say the word moral obligation and you'll sound like a decent human being. And number two is, at the end of the article, it says, an AI tool was used to add an extra layer to the editing process of the story. You can report any errors to the thing. This is the Mirror. This is the first time I've seen this in action. God. This is like an AI story.
No way.
So we don't know how AI says Fujitsu.
It'll be biased, won't it? AI will be in favour of the tech company. Of course it will.
Hey, we don't know what mistakes were made or whatever. What's going on behind the scenes?
With this story, though, do you not think that somehow all the focus has been moved off the real bad guys? Because Fujitsu made bad tech and maybe covered up...
The postmasters.
The postmasters. No, the post office. Yeah. Because all of from my understanding of it, and that means watching all 4 episodes, that's all the research I've done, but all the extra money that was... taken away from these innocent people didn't end up in Fujitsu's pockets, ended up in the post office's profit.
Of course, apparently they underpaid tax by £300 million from the, I'm not sure exactly, because the way it worked. Maybe that was another error in their accounting software. The post office seems to be, so far it's come out on top financially.
Well, but now the guy who's been in charge for the last couple of years, he's basically rocked up to this committee and said, I don't know how much anyone got paid and I don't have any evidence. It's like, come on, man, that's not cool. Saying that, I do own a couple of Royal Mail shares, so, let's not look too deeply. Wait, no, I want to say one more thing. It's Kate Moss's birthday. There's a picture of Kate Moss on the front there, and I just want to say I met her at a party when I was 18 years old, and I totally dissed her. I didn't know she was Kate Moss. And a friend of mine bumped into her a couple of months later and said, "Who's that guy? He was such a beep. He was so rude." And it was because I just was like, "Oh yeah, hi, yeah." Walked. "Oh, your name's Kate. Yeah, cool. All right." And I walked off to my friend. Anyway, just thought that made me look kind of cool.
Did it?
Did it? No, maybe not. Maybe not. If I'd known it was her, I would have.
I'm sure right now she sat around with two
She's
of her
the
friends
missing
saying,
out.
this guy really dissed me, isn't he?
No, I was probably the only person who ever dissed her.
I can confirm that is how Josh speaks to people who aren't famous.
Yes. Thank you. I speak to Leo. You're
Speaks
famous.
to me like that. It's true. Finally, what prize-winning journalism does the Star have for us, Josh?
They have the Houston, how do they say it in Houston? I'm trying to be. I just want to not be accused of being racist and read all places according to
Houston.
We have a moron, and it's about the space minister who doesn't know the sun. And is he talking out of Uranus?
Well, not mine.
His anus.
Well, that's what it says. Yeah, something along those lines.
He mixed up the sun and Mars.
What an idiot! I didn't even know that.
It's not going to change.
That is pretty
job.
That's pretty bad. There's I can understand Jupiter and that if you're like, but the sun. Come on.
One's a newspaper, one's a planet. It's very good, we better crack on. So that's the front pages done. After the break, we'll be telling you the results of this year's general election and probably the American one too. So see you there.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
to find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m.
We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen, still here with one Irishman short of a good joke, Scotsman Leo Kearse, and Englishman Josh Howie. We move on to the Telegraph now, Leo, and there's one man who could win the next election for the Conservatives. His name is Mr Mantering, but you can call him Jerry.
Yeah, very good. So boundary changes, which is what gerrymandering is, which is what Steve was talking about, mean that Labour needs a bigger swing than 1997 to win the general election. So the boundaries have shifted, you know, according to demographic changes and you know, more people move into an area, you know, just to balance things out a bit, I guess. I mean, I'm sure the Tories would never use it to give themselves an advantage because they're too good for that. So Sir Keir Starmer's task is made harder as the new parliamentary constituencies give the Conservatives a net gain of 7 seats. Well, how about that? It did actually benefit the Conservatives. I've never seen that coming. So it looks like we're going to have a general election in the second half of this year. Yeah, I mean, the boundary changes do give a modest boost. Unfortunately, there's a strong, whatever the opposite of boost is, by the fact that the Conservatives have long since given up trying to be conservative and look fated to... Man, you'd need... I don't know what you'd need to win this for the Conservatives now. It looks, you know, it's unimaginable that anybody other than Keir Starmer is going to be the Prime Minister.
Yeah, I mean, part of this is that people have moved from the north and from Wales down to the south, so it turns out not levelling up might be one of the few things that could help the Conservatives at the next election.
Yeah.
But the analysis of the figures, they're a bit weak, aren't they? It's kind of comparing it to the Boris Johnson era.
Yes, and comparing it to Corbyn, who was just such a terrible leader. But yeah, they wanted each area to have the similar number of figures in it. But because of that, that means Wales lost a whole bunch of seats, which traditionally has been a Labour a stronghold. But actually, turns out most of the seats are coming from other parties. Labour only loses 2, but the Lib Dems lose some, and the Welsh Party, whatever that's called, loses some. Plain Plain Singliori?
Plaid Cymru.
Whatever. It's Fujitsu!
You're going to get lots of letters, but you won't understand a word of them.
Exactly. But it's going to be offset by the fall of the SNP expected fall or somewhat fall up in Scotland, obviously, as well, which Labour are expected to take some seats there. So, as Leo says, welcome, Mr. Starmer, Prime Minister Starmer, President Starmer. Which country are we at? I don't know. We've got Trump coming up.
To the Telegraph indeed, Josh, and normally when Donald Trump says Iowa, he follows it with hush money for what we did in that Russian hotel. But not this time.
Very good. Trump wins Iowa caucus, landslides DeSantis, pips Haley to second place. Trump got over half of the votes in that state. It was a very snowy night, but still, people came out for Trump. They love Trump. And it's looking worse and worse for people are saying there's no real way that anyone's going to catch up with him at this point, the momentum that he goes in. Look, politics, things do change. Anybody who's watched West Wing will know you just don't know what. There could be a nuclear meltdown in California, and then that could change the whole outlook of the election.
Yeah. We can hope.
Yeah, but so that's it. Yeah, Trump is looking increasingly like it's a shoo-in, and so I guess we're going to be talking a lot more about Trump.
Yeah. Well, unless he's legally precluded from being on the ballot in some states, which is a tricky situation.
Which looks like, I mean, they're throwing everything at Trump. They're using all kinds of lawfare to try and hobble him and bring him down.
Yeah, those stupid laws.
Yeah, but laws, they say, like, oh, he's an insurrectionist. What? Because he tweeted saying, have a nice picnic or something. It's like, no, that's, like, ridiculous. You need like, a smoking gun in his hand. If anything,
the election was stolen.
If anything,
come to Washington.
They're literally saying how they're going to steal this election. If you thought, the sort of resentment and the sense of being cheated was bad on the right before, just because, they colluded with the FBI and big tech to hide and silence legitimate stories such as the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. If you thought it was bad before, it's going to be insane if they stifle Trump this time. And also, Trump's numbers are going to go up. Ramaswamy dropped out, so he's sort of pledged his support to Trump. That's 7% of the numbers. Although, if sense does return to the Republican Party, Nikki Haley, in terms of electability against Biden, she'd be 17 points clear, whereas with Trump and Biden, it'd be much more neck and neck. So,
and by the way, the Democrats as well have been cowards in terms of dealing with this issue, in terms of dealing with Biden.
And letting Biden run it?
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got a terrible VP. The best get the analysis I read was to get someone else in as VP, and that might be able to, someone competent, and that might be able to galvanise the Democrats.
But then you'd have to find a competent Democrat.
As opposed to?
An incompetent Democrat.
No, as opposed to Republicans. As an American.
Is there any other nationalities we've not insulted yet? We're slowly getting to the Guardian, Leo.
This is Great Britain. This is what we do.
We can insult people. The Guardian, Leo. The UK is wasting money on out-of-date IT systems. But to be fair, we do have a fairly popular MySpace page.
So the UK is wasting tens of billions of pounds on crumbling infrastructure and badly run projects. Wow, I never would have thought. Oh, my God, it's almost as if all those things that we're told about government and the state and the public sector are true. So the spending watchdog, the National Audit Office, says that smarter government can find huge savings for better public services. I don't know, this assumption by the spending watchdog that government can run like a nimble, agile, tech startup is a nonsense. But yeah, apparently there's 5 major areas that government can save money. Big infrastructure, managing buildings, buying, so procurement, IT systems, and reducing fraud and error. They missed the big one. Just fire 3/4 of everybody who works in the public sector. It'll boost the economy because the private sector is crying out for labour. That's why businesses are saying, no, keep the borders open. We need all these workers. The workers are here. They're just doing nothing. They're sitting on the bums doing nothing for various local authorities.
And as Leo used to work, he knows exactly what he's talking about.
I'm much more productive now. I'm motivated. I try hard.
Their costs are going for the Department of Environment. They are spending 3/4 of their digital budget just to keep the old system running. Yeah. The Ministry of Defence is relying on kit that dates back to the Cold War. So they have to just do... And this goes to a sort of argument I made before. Just the last 6 years, regardless of the the toxicity of Brexit and all the stuff, has just held this country back from running itself properly here. And this is what we're seeing now. But also, we're not helping ourselves by £100 billion of contracts are awarded. A third of those weren't subject to competition. Now, if you believe in capitalism, that's the whole point, is it drives the price lower and you get a better deal. If they're just going out to whoever, it's madness.
But so much of the public sector can just be done away with. We need Javier Milei, the Argentinian president, to come in and just be like, afuera, like Arts Council. Why have we got an arts council? Like, if art's good, people will buy a ticket to it. If it's not, then they won't. And you should get a job doing something else.
Do we not get a grant from them for doing comedy? No. Well, in that case, get rid of them.
It's a bit what Labour says they're going to open a new office of value for money, but we already have the office for budget responsibility. Those are the two, so they're going to waste more money by opening another office.
And each office will criticise the other one, say that it should be cut.
Shut down, good idea. The Express, Josh, and here's a blast from the past. We're going to talk about COVID vaccines. Next thing, we'll be watching Tiger King again.
Yeah, oh God. What happened? I gave up for Series 2.
The husband was found.
What?
Yeah! The one that got eaten by the tiger?
Yeah.
Can I just...
The husband's alive.
Are you serious?
I'm very much serious.
I've spent the last few years just convinced she's guilty.
I know. I've done very much jokes about her being a husband killer.
I just want to do an impression of Leo. So say the husband's alive.
Husband's alive.
Anyway,
great. I'm going to have to get this dry clean now.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, a refusal to have COVID jabs linked to over 7,000 hospital admissions and deaths. Now, this is an incredibly frustrating and short article in the Express, based on a study in The Lancet, where, if this does get clipped, it goes viral. Why is that guy just sweating so much?
And also, you just did the most COVID-unfriendly thing you could possibly do.
Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry, guys. But, yeah, this is like one of my many bugbears, but they keep on saying here, like, OK, so essentially people who didn't get the vaccine, they're saying 7,000 went to hospital and died. But they keep on saying hospital. I don't care about the hospital people. I just want to hear about the people who died. So it could be 6,909 went to hospital and one extra person died. And then you have to make other things. Well, how many died from the virus, taking the... Do you think deliberately including hospital admissions here is incredibly misleading, and that's what they did the whole way through COVID, where it was just sort of like, this many people are infected. I don't want to hear about infected. I want about people who've definitely died before I get scared.
Do you think because this is in the Express? Do you think the Express?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's so weird. Why the Express sort of following this narrative? Yeah, but the fact they're going with it and not calling that out or whatever.
But also, with it being in the Lancet, I don't know why the Express is even bothering to write it up then. This is just news for other doctors to be like, oh, yeah, this is the thing about vaccine, rather than no one's actually trying to do a campaign to say you should take it because of this. Yeah. This was a low, no one needs to notice it news story.
And also, it doesn't sound like a lot. I mean, 7,000 in the whole country, that's because it's a big country. There's at least 14,000 here. So, we're not getting near risk numbers yet. And, how many hospital admissions due to the COVID jab? Don't want to get us in trouble at Ofcom, but, it does have some adverse reactions.
Yeah, it was 3.
A million.
That's it for part 2, but coming up, more tattooed people in the army, and half of Spanish men don't like feminism, probably the bottom half. We'll see you there.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Headliners. To the Express, Josh. And civil servants were taught that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, but that second man is a terrorist. So, you know, that's the thing.
OK, this is, for me, the maddest story of the night. Tom Tugendhat orders a review of left-wing civil servant training over indoctrination and fear. Now, this is based on an article in the Fathom Journal. Anna Stanley, she used to work for the government. She was a civil servant. She went along to a course provided at King's College, famous university all around the world, about terrorism, and she posits that this course was essentially a national security risk because the lecturers over these 5 weeks or so they did the course just said some mental stuff like, you know, one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, and as talking about condemning terrorism is endorsing the power of the strong over the weak, and that we shouldn't focus on prevent because it's inherently racist, because it focuses on Islamic extremism, even though 70%-ish of UK terror attacks are Islamist in nature. And then things like Joe Rogan and Douglas Murray are far right, and how do we suppress them? We need to find a way for society to suppress them. So all of this stuff, and this has been taught to our civil servants, people working for the Foreign Office or whatever. So it just shows the bias within the system and being perpetuated within academia. These people need to be rooted out of academia, rooted out of the civil service. They're harming our country. They're coming away believing these thoughts. Terrorists are supporting terrorism. It's mental.
Yeah, they literally call Hamas terrorists freedom fighters. It's insane. And also, King's College London is funded by Qatar. Yeah. Well, they're actually interchangeable terms. But they take millions of pounds from Qatar. And this happens with a lot of our colleges. And then we wonder why, you know, credos, ideologies that harm the West are being promoted and promulgated on university campuses. I mean, this is essentially, you know, critical race theory that splits the world up into oppressors and oppressed, and, you know, that manifests itself.
Terrorists and the terrorists.
Yeah. But this is disgusting. But what's more disgusting is Tom Tugendhat, after 14 years of Conservative rule, is finding out that the government, our supposedly Conservative government, is funding training for government employees that is anti the government, anti the West, promotes terror. Is absolute nonsense. We should have been right on this right from the start. People should be clapped in irons when they do this. As it is, you know, Labour are going to be in a couple of years when it's all going to be mandatory.
To the Times, Leo, and the army is turning away people with tattoos, which is odd because of this one word that goes with military.
Hey.
Yes, the strict rules on tattoos are blamed for the Army's recruitment crisis. So young people with tattoos above the collar line or on their hands, sufferers from hay fever and asthma, people with a high body mass index, and those who broke bones in childhood
Fat
have been
people, to
ruled out.
translate.
Yeah, that's like basically obese people. I mean, I agree, tattoos. Let people with tattoos in the Army, they'll probably be the best ones. You know what I mean? Certainly in terms of like football firms and stuff, they're usually, you know,
if they can make little like tiers for everyone they've murdered.
Yeah, well,
whatever, like in prison.
They're probably going to be. It looks like they're going to be quite busy. So you don't want to, you know, you'll run out of ink. But fat people, I mean, come on, because a lot of these people have to be hoisted into the air and, you know, parachuted into. I've watched some war movies. So yeah,
some of them press buttons.
Some of them do press buttons. I guess the fat ones could do that, but they're still going to need to eat more food and stuff. But every part of the army, pretty much, the Navy, the Marines, everyone is missing the recruitment targets. And they're saying it's because, they won't let people with tattoos. And the real reason is that the army has been promoting this sort of critical race theory, anti-white racism, and you know, LGBTQ stuff. All the adverts are just, you know, super diverse, like it's a you know, some sort of Disney production. And I think that's just put off. Why would a white man who you know, is from a generation, because quite often people go into the army are from a generation after generation goes in, why would they go in and risk their lives for a country, a regime that actively seems to despise them?
Okay. Josh, they're not that diverse because they don't have people with face tattoos.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, this article doesn't actually say anything that Leo talked about. The real thing about this article is that they're taking too long to process the applications. So in the 6 months that they're waiting to see if their tattoos are precisely okay, or if they're too overweight, or whatever it is, or they broke a bone when they were a kid, that people are going, wait a minute, I need to get a job. I mean, they get jobs elsewhere. So that is what this article is actually about. It's not even about the tattoos. It's about them taking too long.
So for every year for more than a decade, they've missed recruiting targets.
But that's what this article is about, is how long
there's not a 15-year backlog in these forms. People will be ready for retirement by the time they got that in. That's a nonsense.
No, but this is what this article's about.
This article is about, I mean, basically patriotism. All the things you need for a military. Patriotism, sense of nation, pride in your nation, they've all been beaten down. People have been told, no, you're terrible, you're scum. You know, you've got to embrace...
Just looking for that bit in this article, but...
Oh, I'm sorry for knowing more than what's in this like little bit of photocopied article, Josh.
I'm all about the article.
Right.
To the Telegraph.
Rules.
Let's see what's in this article, Josh. Spanish men are apparently feeling upset by feminism. When you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. But when you're accustomed to privilege, oppression feels like oppression, so you kind of prove nothing there.
Half of Spanish men feel discriminated against amid feminism backlash. This is a study of a bunch of blokes. And they're basically saying, because there's been a big shift in Spanish culture with the left-wing Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, and there's obviously needs maybe to readdress a balance, but they are feeling, like, say, discriminated against, and a third of women agree as well. Now, they're saying here, like, again, they use these, like, very misleading. They go, 28% of the pay gap has fallen from 28% to 21%. But this pay gap thing is much more complicated than even, you know, women tend to have children and they go off work.
That's not the article.
You're right. I take that back. Let's not talk about that. And I'm just reading the article.
No, that's totally right. I mean, the pay gap has been debunked by me and Josh just then. No, it's a nonsense. You think companies, if they pay women, you know, a third less or whatever, every company would only hire women because you'd automatically get the same results with like much less money.
Better results. Women are better.
Yeah, better results. I mean, it's a nonsense. Obviously, women tend to be more likely to have children because men can't have children unless you're a Guardian reader. So that's where the pay gap comes from.
Yeah, but it's interesting that because historically, I'm going off article now, if you don't mind for a second. Historically, Spain has obviously has this kind of macho culture. So there is this idea. I wonder if they're pushing back quite quickly against what they see, because there is an argument that in order to achieve this parity, to force it through, that men are being discriminated against. If we can just use the only thing that I happen to know about, which is the stand-up world, there are women who have been arguably pushed early in their careers who aren't necessarily at the same level of some of the... just all women. No. And there are brilliantly funny comedian women as well. But to get this 50% thing, there are...
They're not brilliantly funny, come on. Like, but there's 3 of them that are brilliantly funny.
OK, I'd say there's 6 or 7.
There's a lot that you can
6 or
put
7.
to close a bill.
Well, there's only about 3 brilliant male comedians in my mind or whatever. But
and they're in this room tonight.
Hey! But the point of it is that we have seen an unfairness here, where something that was a meritocracy, how much do you make people laugh?
Literally none of this is in the article.
It wasn't. I'm going to write it.
To the Times, Leo, and Scottish people are shown in adverts to be tight. They're not. Some of them spend £110,000 on a camper van.
Yeah, we're very generous with Westminster's money. So Scots depicted as tight-fisted and working class. In TV adverts, executives admit using lazy stereotypes in a study on diversity and inclusivity in advertising. But you know what I've learned? All stereotypes are 100% true all of the time. And Scottish people are tight-fisted and working class. I thought I was middle class when I was in Scotland, and I had to move to London to find out I'm actually working class. And they say this. I think they project a bit onto this as well. They say they always put the ad executives say they always put a Scottish voice in a bank ad because the stereotype says they're really tight. I don't think that's why they do it. It's always a Yorkshire voice or a Scottish voice because that's the most trustworthy voice. And if anybody wants to buy a used car, go to my Patreon. No, but if you want somebody to be a little bit thick, they use West Country accents. If you want to signify dirty-handed working class, stick a Brummie in it. Again, 100% accurate. And they say that, you know, social class is the last remaining acceptable stereotype in the industry, but in society. I mean, look at Rochdale. You've got, you know, the Guardian and, you know, the chattering classes say that, you know, Me Too. The most horrific sexual assault is when a man puts his hand on a middle-class woman's knee, whereas working-class girls, the most horrific crimes imaginable can happen to them, and the Guardian just shut up about it and minimise it and obfuscate it.
I'm going to go off article, and I'm going to say that what's interesting here, when we're talking about Scottish people of colour, and when we're talking about working class, we're talking about working class people of colour, because there are no white people on adverts anymore.
Yeah.
That's part 3 sorted. Coming up in the next bit. Fruit juice is bad for you, but fat thighs are good for you. Not sure if I can order those in my local, but I'll try. We'll see you soon.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. The Telegraph now, Leo, and China managed to clone a monkey. Did they? Or do they pop down to the pet shop and buy one that looks the same?
So cloned monkey is first to survive in good health after 112 failed attempts. So that's a lot of messed up monkeys dying in hideous agony.
Monkey.
So yeah, these Chinese scientists this has been successfully cloned monkey and has so far lived for 2 years before dying from coronavirus. No, I'm sure they'll...
Are they also cloning bats?
Oh man, don't give them ideas. But they've cloned primates before, but cloning of this kind of primates is prohibited in Europe on ethical grounds, but it's conducted legally in China. And this is why China will leap ahead in this sort of research, all this sort of, brain research, because it's a completely amoral system over there. It's like, the Nazis, how they conducted experiments on prisoners and stuff like that. It's, similar stuff goes on with the Uyghur Muslims. Which is obviously horrific, but it does mean that their science will probably advance.
But on cutting-edge chimp technology, are we worried about that?
Well, this is actually the scope is wider than that, because this technology they developed because these fetuses were failing, basically because it didn't have strong enough embryos or something like that. They worked out a way to also put the cells into a new embryo that had a thick wall, and they could use that potentially with people who are via a new sort of treatment for IVF. So that's quite interesting as well, make the fetus more viable. And the other thing they're saying is it's so difficult that, yes, they prove that you can now do a primate or whatever, but they're saying it's so difficult that it actually makes unlikely that we would clone humans.
Yeah. And also, none of the dead animals, 112 dead animals, they didn't go to waste. They all went into some form of stir fry, I'm sure.
To the Daily Mail, Josh, experts say that thunder thighs are good for your health. Really? Because I find they make me struggle to breathe.
Ooh, saucy. I don't know where that...
Is that what you meant? Like the James Bond, in the Pierce Brosnan one?
It must be that.
Yes, an action scene.
Is that what you meant?
No, I think he meant like...
around your face?
I think it was
thighs around his face. Well, it could be any. It could be a man's with thighs.
It's been an allergic reaction. It was ambiguous, and that's why we get away with it.
Okay, yeah.
Stop and really analyse it.
Analyse it. Okay,
I hate ambiguity.
Yeah.
As much as I hate thunder thighs.
Is that what you call it? Sorry, I don't know. Okay. Why thunder thighs are good for your health? They improve your brain power, reduce the risk of heart failure, could even help stop the effects of aging. It should be pointed out that what they mean is not thunder thighs, they mean people with muscly thighs, not fat people with big old thighs.
Yeah. And that's the danger of this article, because a fat person could read the headline, then get bored because they're notoriously lazy, and think that their fat legs are in some way going to be an asset.
No, you just got to have big muscles on your legs, because the more if you do, it's going to help you after a heart attack because it helps the blood circulation. It will also help keep you stable later in life, so you won't be falling. It also, and I'd read this before about squats. Supposedly squatting is much better than walking or anything else that you do. For some reason, it literally kick-starts the brain.
And testosterone as well, because it's the biggest muscles in the body, so it produces. They produce the testosterone when you do it. It's like
the problem is, if you go
steroids.
too much, your testicles get too big, and then it's that's
and
not
squatting's
science.
the worst move in that case, isn't it? Especially on a cold floor.
Yeah, that was the joke.
Well, if we're re-explaining mine, we're re-explaining yours. The Times, Leo, and fruit juice may make children fat. Kids these days. We had Sunny Delight to deal with, and we had to cope with all that jaundice.
Yeah, a daily glass of fruit juice may cause children to gain weight, according to experts or research. It's the University of Toronto. So they warn that fruit juice is liquid calories and that parents should limit their child's intake to prevent them growing up obese or developing an unhealthy sweet tooth that lasts a lifetime. So, you know, a little bit of calories at every mealtime from this fruit juice can add up and make you fat. And I guess there is the tooth decay, but I think this is ridiculous. Like they're trying to push the sugar tax. At the moment, fruit juice and milk-based drinks aren't included in the sugar tax. They're trying to push juice into that sugar tax, and then kids will drink, you know, fizzy pop, sugar-free fizzy pop, and that's actually really dangerous. There's no vitamins in it. Like orange juice is full of vitamins. Other juices are full of vitamins, and even though it's got some sugar in it, you know, just run around the garden a few times, you burn it off. It's much better than sugar-free stuff because the carbonated drinks rot your teeth and your bones because they're acidic, and you know, the sugar-free stuff, the acesulfame or whatever, it's dodgy stuff, sweeteners.
Yeah.
There's acesulfame as well. A different one, acesulfame K.
No.
There is.
I've got to remember the word that you're aiming for. It's not. I mean, I can't do a minute's worth. We've got a minute left on the show, and I would willingly sit here and try and guess long-chain chemicals that are sweeteners. Sulfame, not acesulfame.
Whatever.
Yeah. A source of female link. The Metro, Josh, and Upset is a game that involves throwing coins at children is to be banned. Some people just do not like change.
Ancient game could be cancelled because councillors insist on throwing coins at children. This is a game that's played in St Ives since the 16th century, and Health and Safety is going to be stepping in because this is the game. They throw a silver ball over a wall of a Cornish parish church to mark the consecration of the church in 1434, and then they move around and the ball goes back. This is why I'm never going to move to Cornwall. If this is entertainment, this is just how boring it was 400 or 500 years ago, whatever. Because
until they got broadband, which is about 3 weeks ago.
700 years ago, this was entertainment.
Why does every village in Britain have some sort of ritual that involves like punching each other in the head? Somebody always breaks their hips or whatever.
Well, that's the show nearly done. So let's take another quick look at Wednesday's front pages. The Times, Sunak hit by resignations and biggest rebellion yet. The Telegraph goes with 60 Tories turn on PM in Rwanda rebellion. The Guardian, PM faces revolt on Rwanda plans as senior Tories quit. The Mirror, post office scandal about time. And the Express goes with PM's last-ditch plea to rebels. Come together on Rwanda plan. The Daily Star goes with Houston, we have a moron. And those were your front pages. That's all we've got time for. Thank you to Josh and to Leo. We're back tomorrow at 11 with Andrew and Nick and Cressida. If you're watching at 5, then stay tuned for breakfast. Till the next time, have a good one.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening, Alex Burkill here with your latest GB News weather forecast. It is going to be cold tonight, and with that, the risk of some harsh frost, icy patches, and a little bit of further snow. A low pressure system across northern parts of the UK today brought some significant snow here. However, the worst of that is clearing away towards the east, with just some outbreaks of rain, sleet, or snow pushing their way southwards across parts of northern central England and Wales as we go through this evening and overnight. Most of this breaking up, though, as it goes. Further north, clearer skies for many, but some snow showers feeding in, particularly to northern parts of Scotland. Under those clear skies, temperatures plummeting. Some places could fall into negative double figures, so a widespread harsh frost and some icy patches to watch out for. As we go through Wednesday, there is a system towards the south of us. This may bring a bit of rain, perhaps some sleet or snow to immediate southern counties, but for most of us, it is actually going to stay largely dry. Plenty of winter sunshine on offer tomorrow, but there will be some snow showers feeding down on a brisk northerly wind, mainly affecting northern Scotland. Despite the sunshine, though, it is going to feel cold. Temperatures generally only getting a few degrees above freezing. More fine sunny weather to come as we go through Thursday, but we stick with that brisk northerly wind, so more snow showers across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps Northern Ireland, and some western and eastern coastal parts could see some wintry showers for a time. Most inland areas, though, staying dry and fine, with more fine weather to come as we go through Friday, but turning wet, windier and milder by the weekend.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Carson, this Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for